Previously, I made a video about mods that car guys should just stop doing, and that list was nowhere near comprehensive. Matter of fact, it didn't even scratch the surface. As the car community constantly grows due to the internet, there are so many new people who find their way to the car community for one reason or another, and sometimes you see people riding around with mods that just make you think, what the fuck?
I'm TJ Hunt, and you're watching Vinstagram.
So with this video, I'm probably going to be hitting 10,000 subscribers if I haven't already. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm going to be doing a 10,000 subscriber Q&A. So go to my Instagram, link in description, and from there you can ask me a question in the DMs. I'm only doing one question per person, but if you have any questions, concerns, go over to my DMs, shoot it over. I'll be answering whatever the most recent question is that comes out of your DMs. So yeah, in the last video, I spoke on how big wheel guys like to put big wheels on cars that have no business being modified. Speaking of cars that have no business being modified, just stop modifying regular traffic. Like, you'd have to be doing something really cool to regular traffic for it to be cool, in my opinion. I know a lot of y'all got y'all's feelings hurt last time. Like a 440i that walks supercars or a Hellcat swapped Altima. Last time I saw a clapped out straight piped Altima, it made me wish I didn't wake up that morning. I used to work at a car dealership that was on a pretty high traffic road. My office was pretty close to the street with floor to ceiling windows, so I could see and hear everything that went by. For better or for worse. Big on the for better or for worse. V12 Ferraris going by made my day. Straight pipe GT3s made my day. Hell, Mustangs and Scat Packs and AMGs going by made my day. But this one guy in this 2005 straight piped clapped out Altima with red wheels, come here. You know who you are. He would whip that Altima like it was a Hellcat on the Myrtle Beach Strip. Just back and forth every day, annoying as fuck. A lot of the old heads love to bitch and moan about how the car scene was better back in the day and that car meets were cooler, and day by day, y'all push me closer and closer to siding with them. Because some of these cars just don't need to be modified. Okay, some regular traffic does look good modified. Like, honestly, I think every Audi needs to be lowered and put on some wheels to not look like a Volkswagen if you squint. Newer non-M BMW 3 Series always look good with a healthy amount of mods. Likewise with VW Golfs, some lifted trucks, some Infiniti G35s, these Subaru BRZs, but not these Subaru BRZs. And there are a few more examples out there that look great when tastefully modified, but for the most part, regular everyday cars look worse when modified than they did when they were bone stock. I've never felt the need to modify my daily driver, and I haven't even wrenched on a car since I got rid of my Mustang. Actually, that's cap, but it's mostly just regular maintenance and cosmetic repairs and like cheap Toyota plastics that break sometimes. And even though I do daily drive a Toyota Tacoma that would look kind of cool if it were lifted 2 to 3 inches and with some meaty off-road tires and some smaller wheels, why would I want to do that when I could save that money and put it down on my next fun car that I really want, an E92 M3? And it's worse with some of y'all. People buy regular traffic and modify it with a bunch of bullshit like plasti dipping the lights, rattle can spray painting trim pieces, giving it a ton of plus 5 horsepower stickers, putting it on the cheapest set of rep wheels with some dog shit tires, and a wing that doesn't even do anything but increase drag, and whatever other bullshit is on the catalog on your favorite aftermarket website. And I'm not even saying that reps are inherently bad. I think there are a lot of them that look better than OEM hubcaps, and if you aren't driving a regular ass car hard and you just bought them for aesthetics, you shouldn't even really have any issues with them. Like, I've never heard of anyone having issues from some XXRs on a daily driver that has less than 200 pound-feet of torque and doesn't ever see over 80 miles an hour. But for the most part, outside of blacking out some trim, tinting your windows, and maybe some PPF if you have some high-end regular traffic that would cost more than a PPF job to repaint if it gets damaged, I think regular traffic, in most cases, should be left bone stock. Forged carbon is sort of a new phenomenon and actually an innovation in carbon fiber that just about everyone watching this video was alive to witness. In 2010, forged composite, better known as forged carbon, was invented through a joint venture between Lamborghini and Callaway? No, not this Callaway. This Callaway, because apparently they wanted to use forged carbon in their golf clubs or something. And the crazy part is my dad actually had one of those first drivers with forged carbon on them. Did it actually do anything to help his game? No, because I watched him slice 12 Pro V1s into the water. Granted, this was a pretty difficult hole and it would have taken him 3 strokes to get around it than if he were to get it on first try into the green across the water. And we were kind of pissing around that day though, but damn, I bet I made it in 5 strokes though. Also, I was fresh off of golf lessons and playing on a team competitively, so there was a bit of a skill gap, but I would say he has blown me out of the water these days. So, but more importantly, it was used in one of y'all's favorite Lamborghinis, the Sesto Elemento, which was the first car to ever use forged carbon. Y'all think y'all are flexing with forged carbon trim in your dashboard? This entire interior was forged carbon. Even the leather was forged carbon, the steering wheel was forged carbon, the digital display was forged carbon, the windows were forged carbon. No, they weren't, but there was a lot of forged carbon. The Sesto Elemento was an impressive demonstration of what was possible with this new material. It allows manufacturers to make new, more precise shapes from just taking pieces of carbon carbon and under immense heat and pressure combining to make a new structure, and it results in the unique texture that forged composite offers. Regular carbon fiber is literally a woven fiber made from carbon, like the weaving pattern, the over and under quilting pattern you learn in preschool. And because of the physical properties of carbon, it just isn't always the most malleable material. But since forged composite isn't in any specific pattern, it can be laid to make a more vast array of shapes much easier. That being said, it's also ugly as it's cheap as and y'all are being robbed, especially if it's not an OEM part. Because at least when Lamborghini does it, you know it has a purpose, and some of the shapes they make with it are easier to produce with forged carbon. Notice how they didn't offer the bare carbon engine bay trim for the Huracan and woven carbon fiber, but they did offer it in forged carbon. Actually, I'm not entirely sure that that's the reasoning, but it sounds legit. Either way, it looks disgusting. The best looking and most functional kind of forged carbon when used on large body panels and trim pieces looks like a bunch of greasy fingerprints on black plastic at best. And for those of y'all using the worst kind of aftermarket forged carbon, which is most of y'all, you're being robbed. Let me tell you how this works. Y'all are often paying more for forged composite over carbon fiber, and it's honestly bullshit if you take a second to think about how carbon is made. See, carbon fiber number one has to be woven into the desired pattern, whether it be Ferrari's signature 1x1 carbon, the usual twill pattern that you see on most cars, or some unique way of doing it. And if I have to give Mansory any credit for anything, it's this carbon weave right here. See, that's sick. Also this. It's just unfortunate that they make some of the coolest carbon fiber patterns and use them for the ugliest body kits imaginable. All right, where was I? Right, you're being robbed. Normally carbon is woven, then sheets of carbon fiber are layered on top of each other, cut into the desired shape, then under immense heat and pressure are pressed into the desired mold. Not quite sure how the plastic or the resin is applied. I'm sure it varies per manufacturer and use case, but it results in a material that's nearly as light as plastic but more rigid than steel, but also more brittle. This is why when cars with carbon fiber body panels get in accidents, they don't bend, they crack, they snap, and they shatter. When cars with carbon monocoques get in accidents that cause frame damage, there's usually no rebuilding it. Like at that point, the car is just cooked. Like you got to get a new frame and take all the working parts off the old chassis and put it on the new one. And unless you are Tavares, your Rich Rebuilds, Matt Armstrong, unless you're Hoovie's Garage, just take the insurance money and get a new car. Extremely long, complicated story made, somewhat medium short. That's how carbon fiber is made. Forged composite, when made correctly, undergoes a similar process of heat and pressure to get the desired shape out of small pieces of elemental carbon. That's if it goes through the same process that it takes to make carbon fiber, and a lot of y'all are getting screwed out of y'all's money, often paying more money to get the forged carbon variant. From videos that I've seen from some of these companies that sell carbon parts and make them in-house, they're literally taking leftover cut up carbon from when they were making the actual carbon fiber, drop them in the mold, add epoxy, and let it dry. There's no heat, no pressure involved. Okay, sometimes there's pressure, but often no heat, and that's what's clearing the carbon of any impurities that aren't carbon. Therefore, you're possibly losing the structural rigidity that carbon's supposed to offer. And while I don't think that matters when it comes to trim pieces, I also don't think that you should have to pay more money for lower quality carbon. And honestly, if you absolutely have to have forged carbon, go and look at how Lamborghini's looks. Notice how there aren't any distinguishable shards of carbon and how it's had to fold to immense pressure for a considerable amount of time and actually looks smushed. Now, you're probably not going to find any aftermarket forged composite that looks like Lamborghini's, and I'm assuming that's because they might sift for certain shapes and sizes of carbon strands to make it. And you'll notice that the shapes of the individual shards of carbon from any company that manufactures forged carbon have a different look because of the variety of shapes of carbon that they might use. But if it's actually been treated like it's supposed to, it's going to look like it's been smushed, like it's taken a significant amount of pressure to be molded into the shape that it takes. That being said, if you still want forged carbon after watching this video, I don't think you deserve to pay more money for a worse part just because you prefer an aesthetic that's honestly quite easy to produce, especially compared to some of the more expensive carbon fiber weave patterns. Go on Alibaba, where half these companies get their parts anyways, and you'll find the exact same forged carbon parts for a similar price as the regular carbon fiber. Stop getting finessed. What in the 2012 Shmee 150 car spotting video is this right here? I thought we left Tron wraps in the 2010s. It was cool like the first time. There was that one Middle Eastern Lambo riding around London with the chrome Tron wrap, and then KSI did it, which was also kind of cool. But after that, nobody else gets the pass. People took that shit and ran with it, and this is where originality in the car community saw the beginning of the end. It was cool because it was unique and interesting to look at, not because it made the car actually look better. Some things just need a proof of concept, and that's it. Also, I feel like it can only look at least halfway decent on certain types of cars. And I'm not trying to say that it has to be on an expensive car, it has to be on a supercar, an exotic car, something that's rare, you know, something that's more exclusive and highly sought after. What I'm saying is that it doesn't work on curvy cars that don't have a lot of hard body lines. It's not going to work on cars that don't have a lot of creases in the bodywork, and it especially won't work if it isn't done well. I remember here in South Carolina, a guy did it to a Mustang, and all he did was put electrical tape on the edges of the body lines, and from 20 feet away, it just looked kind of weird, and from closer than that, it just just look poorly done. It worked on the Aventador because 1, the wrap was done well, and 2, it has lots of creases on the bodywork where you can do the Tron lines to make it look cool. If you don't have a lot of creases, you either don't have enough Tron lines for the desired effect, or you have a bunch of random lines all over the car that don't make any sense. The only other way you can make this look decent is if you do a full wrap with a custom design, and I promise you it's easier to mess this up than it is to get it right. If you're getting paid like that and you have the money to do a full body wrap, and even back then I bet that Chrome Tron wrap was like 20 grand, but again, if you're getting paid like that and you have the money to do a full body wrap, I'd just try something else. 2012 called and they want their wrap back. Not gonna lie, some cars sound absolutely incredible with no exhaust restriction. But some of y'all, most of y'all, need to put y'all's mufflers and cats back on. There's currently a bounty on some straight pipe VQ around here that keeps sending it at 3 a.m. and pissing everybody off. Like it's even pissing the car guys off. I found out I wasn't the only one who was annoyed by this through a local car group because nobody wants to hear that shit when you gotta be up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. There's gotta be like 20 different street legal motors that sound good with no mufflers, no cats, and no resonators. Odds are yours is not one of them. Sometimes I see vehicles that get straight pipe where I'm like, why did you even think this was gonna sound good? For example, straight pipe VQs are pretty much universally hated at this point, but living in the South, I've seen some pretty egregious vehicles get straight pipe. It's wild. Ford Fusions, Toyota Tacomas, Cat Eye Chevy Silverados are a big one. 4-cylinder BMWs, like why? And this is a question of moral. Why are y'all being fake as hell to your friends? Lying to them, telling them that shit sounds good. Like if that's really your homie, tell them that shit sounds like ass. It's scaring the hoes away. And he needs to at least put his muffler back on. In muffler shops, y'all need to exercise some discretion. Like I know bills gotta get paid, lights gotta be kept on, wages gotta get paid every 2 weeks. But there's no way in hell straight piping Tacomas is y'all's bread and butter. If y'all don't grow up here and tell them yee boys to come back when they got a vehicle that actually sounds good, because it's crazy how you normally go to a shop with an idea that might make the performance of your vehicle worse or make it less functional, and you go like, hey, I want to modify my car in this way using these parts, what do you think? And they might go, yeah, we can do it, but it's gonna make your car perform objectively worse and make it objectively less practical, possibly even more expensive for no reason. Even if you go through with it, they still give you the warning. But if a dude in a 350Z pulls up talking about, see this muffler? Take it off! See these catalytic converters? Take it off! And they do it, no questions, no concerns, they just do it, and it's not even legal. In 2024, we must stop doing crazy raps for the sake of being one of one. Nobody's actually doing anything unique anymore, and I think everything under the sun has already been done in one way, shape, or form. Sure, that new rap may be one of one, but I don't think anyone's innovating in a way that actually looks good. People just want the wildest shit printed on a rap just to say nobody else thought of this, rather than doing something they like just for their own satisfaction. Back in the 2000s, Pinstripe Chris drew a livery with a Sharpie on a Gallardo. By the way, this is the same guy who more recently drew on the Carrera GT, but you see what I mean? The livery game peaked way back then. Honestly, I don't think there's anything you could do cooler as far as liveries go than have someone hand draw it in detail. I hate that we don't see more of this given that PPF is more mainstream now, and you could really have a professional artist do this for probably similar rates as a printed wrap that's done right. Because everyone and their mom does PPF and wraps nowadays, but if you want something that's actually done good and it's not gonna fall apart after a couple years, I haven't seen any good reputable wrap shop do a full PPF or full wrap for any less than 5 bands. And it's for sure gonna cost you more if you want some crazy design that needs to be meticulously matched up panel by panel. That being said, I think doing these crazy liveries is just a bit outdated. The ones that are aging the best are honestly just the iconic yet simple racing liveries of the past being applied to newish cars, as well as solid non-metallic colors with any other decals or anything like that. Alright, this is kind of just a personal gripe of mine, but these kinds of wheels on JDM cars just piss me off. I don't even know what to call them. In my notes, I just wrote these kinds of wheels because I know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, but don't know what they're called or why I see them on 350Zs, Skylines, Honda S2Ks, and a bunch of other 90s and 2000s Japanese cars. The part of the community that likes these kinds of wheels often intersects with the Camber Gang boys, and on top of a ton of camber being cringe, these wheels are even cringier. But I seriously am open to understanding these wheels, like for real. Somebody in the comments, please explain this to me. It almost seems like a nostalgia thing in the same way that guys in Texas put swangas on newer cars to achieve a modernized version of that aesthetic, even though I think that just like the big wheel guys, they don't actually look good on cars newer than a certain year. And as bad as I want to hate this trend with every single piece of my soul, I just simply don't understand it. I don't even remember seeing people put these kinds of wheels on Japanese cars in the 2000s. Cause you know what they remind me of? The kinds of wheels that drug dealers, rappers, and other celebrities put on Escalades and Hummers in the height of the recession. They were ugly then and they're certainly ugly now, so why in the if people all of a sudden decide they look cool on Infiniti G35. Somebody please tell me I'm missing something in the comments. I don't like extreme camber. I already expressed that in part 1, but I understand where it came from and why it became an aesthetic that is desired for some reason. I also hate mismatched carbon body panels, but I understand in some cases it can be functional and how it has become an aesthetic that, again, some desire for some reason. But what I don't understand, something that I've never understood, are these wheels right here and wheels similar to them. Why do they look like this? Why are they going on Japanese cars and JDM inspired builds? Is there some sort of subculture in the Japanese car scene that sort of mimicked the big wheel movement in the States and then replicated on the small Japanese cars, then popularized in American car culture later on? I made that up entirely, but that's the only sort of logic that makes sense to me. Now, this one isn't the worst offense on this list, but anime stickers are kind of cringe. Like, not gonna lie, like, kind of cringe. I don't care that your JDM is low-key kind of cringe. I thought it was kind of creative when people were putting it on the edge of their window, kind of looking like the character was like peeping up out of the car window, but that was cool for like 2 years. Now, kind of cringe.